It is Dave. It is your man Duncan. We are back for another album review. And for this review, Duncan and I are going to be checking out the new album from Melodic Sludge band, Witch Ripper. I guarantee you I will say Witch Tripper at some point through this review because,
Yeah, we're going to be singing down.
yeah, every time, even when I read it, I was like, Witch Tripper. And I was like, oh no, Witch Ripper. The band's new album, The Flight After the Fall, will be released on March 3rd via Magneitc Records. So, before leaving Minneapolis to return home to Seattle, Curtis Parker, guitarist, singer,
Where did Chris come from?
I don't know. Crafted an EP meant to serve as a blueprint for the direction of his next musical endeavour. Built on that foundation, Witch Ripper came together as a band in the Emerald City, releasing a debut LP, Homestead, on DHU Records in 2018 to critical acclaim. During the pandemic, Parker, alongside bassist Brian Kim and manic drummer Joe Eck, began expanding their collective musical palette, welcoming second guitarist, vocalist Chad Fox into the fold, and setting to work with heightened aspirations. The product of their broad ambition is the gargantuan The Flight After the Fall. Telling the story of a scientist fleeing Earth with his wife in deep freeze to seek out a cure for her illness. The Flight After the Fall swings for the far reaches of the galaxy and brings each song home with profound confidence. So, Witch Ripper, Duncan. Let's get into Witch Ripper. I kind of thought I knew what I was going into with this one.
Yeah, I was the same. I'd heard two singles from this, and I distinctly thought I knew what I was getting, and then I very quickly found out that I'd no fuck all.
Yeah, totally off guard. I was like totally caught off guard. Like the press release said Melodic Sludge, and I was like, yeah, cool, I'm down with that.
Missing the giant P. The P is for prog.
Yes,
which is probably just as much in here as anything else.
Yeah. There is obviously there's a large portion of the album that lives up to that like Melodic Sludge kind of tag. And there are tracks here that will instantly remind you of bands from that genre. You know, you'll get your put that out there, just throw
Mastodon.
it out there, just know. Let's throw the Mastodon out there.
Yeah, Mastodon.
That's going to come up, right?
I mean, that's fair.
Yes, yeah. Cobra the Impaler, a little bit of that as well. Red Fang, that type of thing.
Red Fang.
Yeah.
Black Tusk.
Black Tusk.
Blue Shoe.
It's corrosive, it's thick, it's gutsy, and as you said, it's quite progressive at times as well. You know, there are tracks here, like track 2, for example, Madness and Solitude. That follows the blueprint. You know, it gives you 7 minutes of that kind of Mastodon-esque riffing and vocal harmonies with, you know, the insane drumming and the big grooves, all that sort of stuff. However, there are more sides to this band. One in particular, then when it switched up, I did a bit of a bit of a double take, like what just happened there? And it happens on the first track. Like they don't even keep this for later in the album.
Yep.
They hit you with it straight away, which was quite a clever thing to do because it kind of makes it feel like it's part of their sound rather than something they've just tried randomly, you know, on a track halfway through the album. So the first track is called Enter the Loop, and it begins as a kind of building, kind of rumbling, kind of sludge track, lots of tribal drums and lead work, got a bit of a kind of uneasy feeling to it in the background, and then it kind of explodes into, you know, heavier riffs, rapid drum fills, and then it drops in this kind of huge, kind of emotive, melodic section, and this is kind of like a climax of almost like a Coheed and Cambria type melody, but against this backdrop of these like kind of space-like synths. It's a very clever shift in the track. Like the hook that comes in is massive.
Yeah,
I did not expect that voice or that range at all at that point. I was like, holy shit, this guy can sing. And as the track kind of progresses, you start to get a little bit more in the way of like a kind of Baroness type melody in the guitars. Then there's also this like classic rock kind of streak comes into it as well. Especially there's like a kind of harmonizing solo, which is very like kind of Queen-like. It's, you know, there's a little bit of a theatrical feel, but not in like a a campy kind of way. It feels more grand, quite anthemic sounding. And that was just track 1, which is like, it's almost 8 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was just like...
It really sets out its stall on the first track.
It really does, yeah.
Because everything after it hits on all those elements.
Yeah, and not one track runs less than 7 minutes.
No.
Like...
Well, one track is 2 tracks together.
Yeah,
so.
well, that's true, yeah. So you've got like 5 tracks here, but they are all like hefty length. And they are all packed with ideas. And, whether that comes in the form of the band leaning more into that kind of like spacier side, almost kind of space rock at times, or them getting a little bit darker and more progressive on things like the Obsidian Edge, or more kind of melancholic and emotional on the Icarus Equation. But whatever they kind of decide to do, it's always kind of pushing forward. The album is always driving forward, and there's always these really like satisfying moments throughout the album. And even like in that first track, when they hit all those high points, it never feels like they are kind of then just repeating those same elements throughout the album. Sludge, has a tendency to sometimes sound a bit repetitive, but these guys don't. They keep it really dynamic, really interesting, without just regurgitating the same ideas. They don't just like copy and paste that first track. And as I said, like track 2 is a lot more direct, channeling a bit more of that kind of Mastodon kind of ferocity. There's a little bit of clean melody still in there, but not nearly as much as the first track. And then they continue to kind of, give you this back and forth between really slick, punchy sludge. It's got plenty of pace and kind of gusto, and then these big melodic choruses that will just pull you in and, just get hooked in your head. They leave you kind of singing the melody afterwards. Which kind of neatly brings me on to the vocals here. Vocals are insanely good here.
Incredible.
I didn't realise at first it's 2 guys, so there's 2 vocalists now. As I said in the press release, they've brought in a second guitarist and vocalist, but they both have different tones and a different character to their voice. So there's a real variation in the vocal styles here, but the 2 styles blend perfectly. Like they're really well fitted together. They work well when they're overlapping, but they work just as well when they're on their own individually as well. Guitar work,
Caven-esque.
yes, it is very much so. Yeah. The guitar work is savage, and it's bludgeoning when it needs to be. As I said, it drives the album forward, but then it can just as easily kind of weave in some really textured, atmospheric chords and passages that give you the kind of light and shade throughout the album. I'm going to mention this, the drumming on this, right? Like, just fucking Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, you could make comparisons to Bran from Mastodon. The playing is of a similar ilk. It's very erratic and it's fluidly fast around the kit like Bran, and very groove laden as well. He knows exactly when just to kind of pull back and just sit in the pocket with it as well. You'll hear that on Icarus Equation, where he just grooves it. There's very small flashes of speed, but that more restrained feel, it kind of lets the vocal melodies shine and the guitar solos really come through, so that they don't have to compete with a guy just going mad on the kit behind them. What I would say is, though, his bass drum work, I think, is better than Bran from Mastodon's. When the double kicks kick in on Madness and Ritual Solitude, they are rapid kick drums and really tight, like insanely tight drums, bass drums. So for me, he's got more elements in his kind of arsenal as a drummer, and I think his playing is very well thought out throughout the album. Obviously, the kind of most adventurous track, I suppose, has to be the almost 17-minute closer. Yeah. Everlasting and Retrograde Part 1 and 2. This, like, when I was listening to this, I was like, this is like if Between the Buried and Me were a sludge band. This is how I imagine it would kind of sound. It's more experimental than the album's previous tracks, but it really takes you on like this round trip of progressive sludge, psychedelia, stoner, post-metal to a bit of rock as well. And it's it's quite a bold choice to go with a 17-minute closing track, and try and pack all that in, but I actually think they pull this off. Technically, it is 2 parts, so the length is kind of justified, but I think it does work best as just one big song. It feels thorough. It feels like it finishes the kind of story arc as well. And I thought there's a lyric on the track. I think it takes every part of me, I think is the lyric, but that kind of stuck with me. It's very poignant, and it's kind of big enough to close the album in that kind of dramatic fashion. So I think they did a really fantastic job. A lot of bands couldn't have pulled that off. Like a 17-minute closing track, you're just like switching off halfway through, but I was with it the whole way. I was totally into it the whole way through. And when I got to the end, I was like, this band must have like a back catalogue of 5 or 6 albums, because this doesn't sound like a
this sounds like seasoned musicians.
Yes, and then I was like, wait, this is their 2nd album? I was like, no, this can't be that. No way. The level of songwriting here, and the depth, it felt like a band that was putting out album 3 or 4 to me when I was listening to it. So I think they've done a really, really good job. I really enjoyed it, and I'll definitely check out whatever these guys do in the future. Yeah, it was really good. What about yourself? What did you make it?
So I'd heard a single a while ago,
Right.
their first single, and then you heard their 2nd single and flagged it to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, these guys are on my radar, but they were on my radar as a sludge band that I need to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
So very much like yourself, upon listening to Enter the Loop, I was kind of giddy by the end of it. I'll put my cards on the table. I think this is fucking excellent. They bring so much to the table, and not one element isn't pristine. And that kind of floors me, because it's not just, all right, there's some keyboards in here. No, every element here is perfect. Like the flourishes of kind of old school classic rock guitar lead work, perfect. Like the bits that like kick right into kind of snarling sludge, perfect. All the proggy like psychedelia and kind of spacey stuff, perfect. And somehow they managed to weave it all in together in such a clever way that it's an album that almost feels like you could listen to it 20 times and never really put your finger on exactly the element that makes it incredible. I found myself shifting around a lot on it, from the like the sludge elements are really, it's what underpins the entire album. Without that, if you took those elements out, it just wouldn't be an interesting album. And then on the next listen, I was like, actually, like if they just wanted to do kind of proggy psychedelia, they'd be fucking excellent at it. And all those elements together are kind of jaw-dropping when you hear how well and balanced it all fits together. Vocally, this is fucking so good. So good. You've got nice character here, and both the voices have this nice kind of tone that don't sit together. I am always a kind of advocate of, if you're going to have 2 singers that are going to do any sort of melody together, please make them have a different range. Like, not 2 mid-range singers, please. And they don't have that. They've got someone that sits more comfortably in the mid-range, someone that's definitely able to hit the higher register. And those moments where the vocals cross over, it's just sublime. It's so well done. Guitar work is excellent. Like so fucking good. And it brings everything to the table. Absolutely everything. At no point here are you going to feel like the band is less like kind of resting on its laurels. Very much like yourself, I spent an inordinate amount of time trying to pick apart the drumming. Because like very much like I do the same with Mastodon. We're mentioning Mastodon a lot, but they are kind of contemporary, so you kind of have to do that. You have to play that game. I can find myself getting lost listening to those drums, because they're just like, why did he do that? In that place, there shouldn't be a fill there. And I kind of felt the same way here. Like he like you say, he knows when to keep against the grid and just keep things flowing. But when he cuts loose, oh my god, it's not erratic cutting loose. It's well thought out. It's just the energy behind it. The energy behind the whole album actually is kind of infectious. It really is. Even the moments where they're kind of bringing things down a little bit, you kind of feel like any moment this could fucking kick off. I think that's a kind of rare quality. The last track is ballsy, to put it lightly. And I mean, they could have easily just done this as 2 separate tracks. There is a bit where there's a clear stop that you could have it fading into another track. I actually like the fact they kept it in one song. Because to me, if you let me listen to this as a standalone song and said, there's this prog sludge band out there and they've released this one track and it's called Everything in Retrograde Parts 1 and 2, and I'd listen to it, I'd be like, this is fucking incredible. Give me more. And it just so happens this is how they closed it out.
Yeah.
So I'd already had my more. It's so well thought out and so well done. The 2 parts contrast really well against each other whilst carrying the themes over. Just very, very, very smart musicianship. It's fucking great. It really, really is. I'm not lost for words, but there is a part of me that feels like my words don't do justice to how good it actually is musically. And it's a album that is just inviting you to come back.
Yeah,
like anytime. Sure. It's like, and that's the thing about it as well, because it hits. In a lot of respects, it does have a more. If you were comparing the two of Mastodon and Baroness, there's a lot more Baroness in here than Mastodon, but it's heavier than Baroness, which is why you put it in the Mastodon register. But certainly those elements that go off into the spacier, kind of more proggy, and at times those kind of more classic rock elements are maybe more attuned with a Baroness than they are the other way. It's an excellent album. It really, really, really is. I know for a fact this is going to end up flying under the radar for a lot of people. It's going to get lost in the release schedule, which apparently is the 3rd of March when everything is coming out. But like honestly, do yourself a favor. If any of the terms, any of the buzzwords, the keywords we've used are even remotely something you're interested in, do not let The Flight After the Fall pass you by. Witch Ripper are exceptionally good. Like really, 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 really good. And like you mentioned, 2 albums, and I mean it's almost a slap in the face and a spit in the spit in the eye. Like they shouldn't be this far on. I'm so confident about it. Like I say, like to have one song where you're like, we're just gonna throw some space rock in here. I kind of get that you're experimenting, but to be able to just pull that out wherever you want on this album, it's kind of. It's formidable, is what it is. It's a really formidable sounding release, which is just incredibly done. I could just keep throwing adjectives at it, but I suppose we should get around to grading it.
Yeah, let's do that. So, scores for this new album from Witch Ripper. I mean, like when I was listening again to this today, and today I was out at work, so I was driving to work and back in the car. I had it on the car, and I was like, this is so fucking good. This is really good. And then I was like, when I came here, I was thinking about a score. I was like, I don't know where I would like detract anything from the score. Like I can't find anything to dislike about it. There's nothing here that I would say, no, that needs tweaked, or they need to shorten this or change that. I was like, there's nothing I would change about this. So I have to go with a 5. Like there's nothing that I would say. There's nothing negative for me about this album at all. What about you? What yourself? What are you thinking?
I thought I was coming in above you. I'm glad I'm not. 5. Oh, really? Yeah, this is like there's not one element on this that's out of place at all. If this band never does anything as good as this, they've released an album which will stand the test of time.
Yeah,
like they should be. I don't even know if they know how good this is. For 2 albums, it's fucking ridiculous. It's so good. So yeah, like please give these guys some love, give them some support. I have been furiously trying to find merch so I can throw them a shekel or 2. It's really, really, really good, and I'm hoping they make their way over to these fine shores sometime soon, because I would love to speak to them.
Yeah, for sure. So, Witch Ripper, The Flight After the Fall, out March 3rd on Magneitc Records. Links below to the pre-order, the Bandcamp, the bands, Facebook, all that sort of stuff. Check it out. Have a listen to the singles. Let us know what you think. Stick some comments in below. That is the review. I managed to get through the whole thing without saying Witch Tripper, so kudos to me.
He said it at the end.
technically.
Done it all.
Thank you for checking out the review. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
It's just an awkward ending now, isn't it?
Really?
Bye, everyone.
Bye.